Holly, hi. Nice to meet
Hello.
you virtually.
Yes, you too. We've been chatting so much. It's so nice to finally see a face.
Same here, same here. And it's amazing because you're as excited about nutrition as we are. You're also type 1 diabetic like me. And I've seen how you do all the workouts and everything as a PT. So it's amazing how you've combined all of this together.
Yeah, I think for me it really was my diagnosis of diabetes that kind of led me to be here, to be where I am. So
If
very
you don't
grateful
mind,
for it.
if you don't mind me asking, can you tell us more? When were you diagnosed? What made you want to go down this route?
Well, it's a bit of a random story. So I was in sixth form when I was diagnosed. So quite like Keshta, I was about 17, I think, when I was diagnosed. It was in 2011. And yeah, just out of nowhere. But I just started, I went to a boarding school. So I was getting really, really tired. And everyone was like, oh, it's just because, you've started a new school, it's a new routine. But my younger sister actually has got type 1 as well. And I went home for, I think it was a half term. And I was literally like downing water, like pints after pints after pints of water. You probably know that feeling. And it wasn't helping me at all. So my mum was like, oh, maybe you've got diabetes. Just test yourself on your sister's blood monitor. And I did.
It's
And
handy.
that was it.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I was at university studying law. I originally worked in law for about 2.5 years before I decided that actually I wanted to PT full time. I qualified whilst I was working as a lawyer, and then carried on my studies and qualified as a nutritionist as well, and then decided to kind of come into that full time.
How inspiring. Wow.
Thank you.
Wow. So for me, it was almost similar footsteps. But no one in my family had diabetes. And where we lived, they didn't know children could have diabetes. So I remember coming back from school feeling rough for a day or so. I was only, not school, preschool. I was only 5. I literally just turned 5. And I remember like lying on my friend's lap and saying, oh, I feel so sleepy. And she was saying, oh, let's go home. Like the car is here. And I was like, you go home. I just want to sleep on the bench. Leave me alone. And the next thing I know, like I woke up in a hospital. Apparently I was in a coma. I don't know for how
Oh
long.
my gosh.
Yeah. And the only reason they knew I had diabetes was because there were lots of ants on the bed, like biting on me. And my mom got really angry and she was saying to the doctors, can't you even have a clean bed sheet? What are all these ants and so on? And then a junior doctor said, did anyone test her bloods for like sugar levels? And they said to him, are you crazy? She's a kid. She can't have diabetes. And he said, no, kids can have diabetes. Let's check. And luckily, thanks to that junior doctor, I got out of the coma and I'm still alive. So
Amazing. Oh,
yeah,
wow.
so actually, I admire how you knew exactly what to do and to switch and all of this like within a few years. For me, I lived my life, my whole life. I was told you can do what you want, nothing can stop you. All of this, which I did. But then I studied IT, worked in IT as a consultant for many years. Just before, just in my mid 20s. I realized I was just, I mean, I controlled what I ate, but it was the whole eat what you want and inject for it, eat what you want and inject for it. But you and I both know that after a while can get really tiring. And sometimes you'll inject for it, but what you inject doesn't work as you expect it to.
Yeah.
So,
So often. I think so many people experience that problem.
yeah, and that's when I stumbled upon if I don't feel good when I eat sugar, why am I doing this to my body? Um, Same way, if I don't feel good when I eat eggs, why am I making myself eat more eggs? So I got to a point where I was not proactively refusing carbs, but I was like, you know what? Instead of having a slice of bread, I'm gonna have some broccoli, or I'm gonna have lots of lettuce, or I'm gonna have this, or I'm gonna have that. And then suddenly I just felt so energized. The whole time I used to be tired, very sluggish, all of this. And I realized just, wow, the difference. Before that, I went through a phase of trying the alkaline diet. And that wasn't it was very healthy for me, but not healthy psychologically, because I ended up
Yeah.
sleeping 4 hours and feeling I don't need any more sleep. I was literally pumping with energy. So going from that to low carb, and then I was like, let's merge the two together and see what happens. And luckily, that's what I've been doing for a few years now. Over a decade. I've always looked at how many carbs I eat, obviously, but it's also helped that where we grew up, we didn't have chocolates and sugary sweets and all of these things. So if you wanted a treat, small, it's not a small country, but like a developing country. So if you wanted a small treat, here, have a banana. That's your treat. So even Kashta and I joke about the fact that I actually said if I had one day, we had a live and people were asking if you had one day when you were not diabetic, what would you eat? And I said, I'd love to eat bananas and mangoes uncontrollably. While Kishta was saying, like, I will eat this chocolate and that chocolate and that chocolate.
To be fair, I think I'd still be on the same diet whether I was diabetic or not, or the same diet, just
Exactly.
eating the same way, because I don't restrict myself with anything.
Exactly. And if you desire it, it's not like you're going to say no. It's just a matter of
Exactly.
portions and everything. Cool.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of questions.
Yeah.
On the live, guys on the live, feel free to write your questions as well. And when we see any questions, we will answer them. Holly, we're super excited to have you here. You're an expert in all of it. I'm not a PT, but I did qualify as a boxing trainer. So for a few years, I did go down that route as well, as a hobby on the side of my IT work. But yeah, so it will be interesting. Feel free to answer. Actually, please answer all the questions. I will feel free to jump in whenever.
Okay.
So, for those on live or those watching this later on, we are going to look at myths around diets, and we will say if it's true or if it's false or if it has any credibility to it, and try to go into the scientific aspect of it. As I said, send us all your questions as well, because there are a few questions that are already there, a few myths to bust, and we'll see what Holly has to say about it all. So, first one. Skipping meals, especially breakfast, will save us calories.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's true. So I think with this one, it's, you know, I think people like to name things, people like to call it something. So this would be intermittent fasting, essentially. If your kind of goal is weight loss, then yeah, definitely. If you're not really very hungry in the mornings and you can skip breakfast, great. But if you're the kind of person that actually thinks when they get up they really need breakfast, that's fine. You can just kind of shift that skipping of the meal to later on in the day, or it's all just on personal preference, whatever you want to do. But essentially, yeah, it will save your calories, but it's not necessary. You don't have to do it.
What would you say about people consistently skipping breakfast every single day? Not as intermittent fasting, just not an important meal.
It isn't an important meal in terms of, you know, again, goal dependent. There have been studies that show that skipping breakfast won't make a difference to you. So it's really is dependent on your personal preference, what works for you. And, you know, if you do skip breakfast, that's absolutely fine, as long as you're getting the nutrition that you need throughout the rest of the day.
So from an intermittent fasting point of view, yeah, I see what you mean. For me, on a personal note, if I skip breakfast, I eat like 3 times my normal calorie allowance the rest of the day. However, if I eat breakfast, I'm happy to skip any other meal that day. So yeah, I guess it's
Yeah,
what you said
it's
about personal preference
yeah,
as
just
well.
whatever works for you. But it's not necessary. But if you do skip your breakfast, it doesn't matter.
Amazing. Cool. And you can only eat a limited range of food.
So this one, this one again is dependent on the person. So for example, if you have celiac, that's an autoimmune disease, and therefore you have to cut out gluten. So
Of
you would
course.
only be able to eat gluten-free. If, however, you don't have any condition like that, you don't need to cut out any foods. Obviously, you know that there will be some things that will be better for you than others, but what I always like to say is that there's no necessarily good or bad foods. We don't need to demonize foods. It's, you know, there are foods that are more nutritionally beneficial for you and other foods that are perhaps hyper palatable, but, you know, really nice. And it's actually nice to have some of those in our diet as well. So, you know, if you're having a pizza on a Saturday night, but all throughout the week you've been eating really, really healthy, loads of vegetables, loads of fruits, you know, getting in a really good balanced diet, it really doesn't matter. So yeah, I think the only time that I would suggest someone needs to eat a limited range of foods is if there is a health condition associated with it.
Okay. And it's not healthy to eat after 5 p.m. I actually heard that from one of my PTs before. Not, I didn't know it was coming up as a question. Not as a question, but someone was saying to him, I stopped eating rice. They were eating bread and everything, but I stopped eating rice because rice makes you gain weight. And he just snapped right back at them saying, do you see any person from East Asia that's fat? No, it's your problem. When are you eating the rice? Are you eating rice at 10 p.m. and going to bed? That's your problem, not the rice's problem. And that's when I realized, there are certain times to eat things. Okay.
Wow. So this actually is a really, really big myth. It's not true.
Really?
Your body, a calorie is a calorie. So whenever you eat something, your body doesn't know if it's 1 a.m. or 1 p.m. You're giving your body fuel.
Energy.
You're giving it energy. Yeah. So whether you eat it at 5 p.m., 5 a.m., doesn't matter. The only thing, you know, perhaps that might be the basis of the myth is because of digestion. So I know that a lot of medical professionals might say, you know, don't eat and then go to bed, but that's on the basis of digestion. It's not unhealthy to eat after a certain time. You can eat whenever you want. For example, you know, if you're a shift worker and you work the night shift, how are you supposed to get your meals in if you can't eat after 5 p.m.? So yeah, it's a total myth. And as I said, a calorie is a calorie. Your body doesn't know what time you're eating it. It's just fueling your body.
That's good to know, Miss Busted. You're not allowed cheat meals.
I love this one.
I love cheat meals. Although I can't afford them as a diabetic, but I love cheat meals.
No, I think this is such a common one, actually. So this is not true. You are, of course, allowed your cheat meals. I personally wouldn't call them cheat meals or cheat days. I find that that's very like negative association to food, like demonizing the food, so you almost feel guilty for eating them. And actually, it's just food. And if you're having a balanced diet, having, you know, these cheat meals or maybe food higher in fat and sugar, that's fine. Have them. In terms of, I'm looking at, I've made some notes. So I've got a couple of studies here that I do want to share with you.
Please do.
So in terms of these cheat days, what I usually like to refer them as is a diet break or a refeed day. So for example, if you've been dieting for a really long period of time, this usually applies more to people who perhaps are competing. A diet break is actually a really good thing to have. Or if, for example, you've got someone who's trying to lose weight for an event or whatever that they're going to, having a diet break or a refeed day is a fantastic way to help boost them mentally. It's got a big psychological benefit to actually having a refeed day or a diet break. So we've got a study here that was done in 2003. And it actually showed that an increase in carbohydrate. So, for example, if you're on a low carb diet for, say, 6 weeks, and then you went to have a higher carb day, it actually increases your leptin. So, for those that don't know, your leptin is your kind of fullness hormone. So, it tells you when you're full. So, by having that refeed or that diet break, it actually helps kind of just pick up your fullness hormone. So that's actually a fantastic way to show that you can have your cheat meals, but I probably personally wouldn't brand them as a cheat so that you don't feel guilty for eating them.
I mean, it's also well known. I'm not referring any scientific researches at this point, but it's well known, scientifically speaking, that people who have a different meal, let's not call it a cheat meal, as you said, a different type of meal from what their diet requirement is, it almost helps them reboost their metabolism. So it sets it on that pattern to start, be challenged and start fresh. Same way as a rest day in the gym.
Yeah, exactly. So it's got lots of benefits. So I would definitely say that this one was false.
Awesome. And I think we got a question or a comment or something that's come in. Diabetes and diet, how to succeed at both?
Well, I guess that kind of it depends on
Adrian
what you mean.
Posted this, but it's coming in through the other channels, so on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram.
So I think this, I mean, it's really dependent on the person. It depends on what kind of diet you're doing. I mean, in my opinion, I wouldn't say that I diet. I eat balanced meals, and for example, I had a Nando's last night.
That's okay.
And it's fine. It's fine to have. I think with the diabetes, as long as you're aware of the way your body responds to certain foods and the way certain foods kind of make your blood sugars react, then it's not ever going to be an issue. So like for my Nando's, I know for me personally, I have to split my dose a bit. So I give a pre-meal injection, and then I'll eat my food. And then I know maybe about an hour after I've eaten my food, that's then going to be digested and then going to cause my blood sugars to rise. So I then do another injection then. I mean, just kind of learning also to understand your body.
Yeah, also proteins take longer until they kick in. So
yeah, exactly. And also if you have got a mixed meal of like carbohydrates and fats, that will slow down the rate of digestion.
Yeah.
So, and as you said, yeah, proteins can increase blood sugars as well, but at a slower rate than carbohydrates. And with the mixed macronutrient meal with the fats, just remembering that it will slow down the digestion. So it is going to be common. Same if you're having a pizza. If you inject and then have your pizza, you'll probably go low if you've just injected for that whole pizza, because your body is going to be slower at digesting it, and therefore into the bloodstream, the glucose is going to be slower at getting to the bloodstream. So that's where a lot of people kind of struggle. And I think just having that knowledge and understanding is what so many people need. Yeah, they just don't know how it works.
Or just buy a Yumsy pizza. It's okay. Yumsy pizza, you don't need to inject for that.
I mean, I think I need to get involved in that. That sounds great.
Talk to me afterwards.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. So this is one of the questions we had before the live. You can target just your belly or one part of your body, I think, to lose fat. I love this. I remember I saw a lady at the gym one time and she was doing like 200 sit-ups because she wanted to get rid of her belly fat. And it took me a while to try and explain, okay, you will gain fat fastest in the part in the middle of your body, and you lose fat, the opposite, from your outermost limbs. And then the last part to lose from will be. And when I told her that, it was, I think she felt personally insulted. But yeah,
a lot of people do. You're trying to help them and they just think, no, that's not right.
Yeah, what do you know? You're just a boxing trainer. What do you know?
This is such a common one. I have so many people come to me and say, right, I just want to lose my belly fat. What do I need to do? What do I need to eat? And how many sit-ups do I need to do? So number one thing,
she was doing 200 sit-ups in one go, and she wasn't the person that was like in the gym doing spin or this or that. She literally came to the gym to do 200 sit-ups for the first time.
Why didn't she just do it at home? That would be my question. No, I mean this. Yeah, so this is not true. Sadly, I wish it was. In order to lose body fat, as you've correctly said, it needs to be an overall reduction in body fat, and that can only come from a calorie deficit. So you can be in the gym doing as many sit-ups as you like. You can follow. The one thing that really annoys me actually is that I see things coming up on Pinterest all the time. Top 10 exercises to burn belly fat. It's not true. You cannot burn, you cannot target, you cannot spot reduce fat in certain areas by doing certain exercises. It's just not true. And you need to have an overall loss of body fat in order to then lose that area, whatever it is. It could be, for example, some people really don't like their tops of their legs. Some people don't like, their bingo wings, if you like to call them that. People always, they have different areas. And for me, my belly is kind of my least favorite part of my body. And when I'm dieting, it's the one thing that I want to go, and it's always the last thing. And it just seems to be, wherever you want to reduce your body fat, that's always the last place to go. But calorie deficit is key.
Yes, definitely. And I mean, workouts can help, but not shape or reduce. It's more shape rather than reduce the size.
Yeah,
So, for
definitely.
example, I don't know. For example, if you never do squats, you can't really expect a bum or shape of a bum that would look amazing.
100%.
Yeah, but you can't target that area and expect it to lose weight on its own. And I don't know. And the calves will not be affected. Everything else will not be affected.
Yeah, I think in terms of doing 200 sit-ups a day, she's probably got a very strong core.
No,
but
she was struggling from about 20. She was struggling from about 20. That's why I was trying to have this conversation with her. And she was like, I'd be doing it fine if you're not talking to me. And I'm thinking, you'd be dead if I'm not talking to you.
It's genetics though as well. A lot of people, it's very dependent on genetics. My family, we've all got bellies. So I know, one of my really
You
really
have
good
nothing
friends,
to worry about. What are you talking about?
Not yet, but I'm sure I probably will in about 20 years
No,
time.
you're not allowed. You're not allowed.
Yeah, but one of my friends, she's just naturally really, really lean. Like her genetics are just all of her family almost have a six-pack. Just
wow.
It's just naturally. The way she's built. Naturally, yeah. And it's dependent on the individual. And I spent so long when I first got into fitness wishing that I looked like a certain person, or I'd see pictures of girls and I was, I just wish I had that shape. But actually it's completely different to my body, and it's my body composition is completely different to theirs. So I will never look like that. So it's just kind of understanding that as well, I think, and being realistic.
True. And also having the right expectations. I remember when I used to have clients in the boxing world, and sometimes a lot of them were females and they didn't want to box professionally. They just wanted to do boxing. And when I say what are your goals or what are your objectives? And they say, oh, I want to lose weight. I say to them, yeah, I'm not in the business of losing weight. Same with Yumzy. A lot of people use our products. They lose weight, but we never advertise our products make you lose weight, because that's not what we're doing. We're in the business of eating better and being healthy. So the moment someone tells me, oh, I want to lose weight, I say to them, you want to become healthier. And then sometimes they would agree. They'd be like, yeah, I want to become healthier and obviously lose weight. And I say, okay, yeah, that I can work with. But if it's just to lose weight, I can't help you. Sorry, I'm not in the business of losing weight. So that's very insightful. Thanks for that. The next question is, you should eat zero fat foods if you want to lose fat. Okay, I have to put something in there before you start.
Go on.
To anyone looking at zero fat foods, 1, fat is good for you. Fat, actually, your body needs fat. Your hormones need fat. Your brain needs fat. It's linked scientifically. People who avoid fat end up with problems like Alzheimer's and long-term health issues. So please, please, don't avoid fat. 2, if you go for low-fat options, be my guest, but please check the amounts of carbs, because a lot of them, they reduce the fat, but they add sugar. They have to replace the taste. Yes, our products at Yumzy are high fat, and I'm not defending fat for that reason, but it also really depends what kind of fat you eat. There's a big difference between eating fat that complements your body and eating fried, I don't know, bacon or fried cheese with fried bacon and a fried banana on top, or whatever people do these days. So that's my take on fat. You really need it, but the right type of fat, please.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. It's really true. I mean, I think there's lots to address here. So if you want to lose fat, simply calorie deficit. So, just make sure you're burning more than you're eating, and that's how you lose fat. I have got some really fun studies to share with you here.
Please go for it.
So, yeah. So
I love the
essentially,
fact you did your research. I'm going to raise a complaint to Adrian because he needs to show me these questions before the live. I'm seeing these questions for the first time. So.
Oh, see, I saw them and I was like, this is great. I'm going to try and get as many studies in there as I can so that people actually, have something that if they want to go and look a bit more into it, they can.
I know, but for me, I guess he doesn't want to share it in advance because he knows I'll come up with my list of studies and then I'll take over the live.
So, in terms of eating zero fat foods, you don't need them to lose fat. So yeah, as we said, calorie deficit. And actually there was a study which is known as the M&M study. And that was
M&M's
from
the chocolates?
As in the chocolates, yeah. And that was from 2006. And it showed that people consumed 28% more when it was described as low fat. So that's just quite interesting on its own. There was another study called the Twinkie study. And I don't know if you know this. Twinkies,
the brand,
they're like American things. Yeah, I don't know. I've never had
one. We were
one.
addicted to that stuff at some point. Not when I was low carbing, I was high carbing, but yeah.
Yeah, they don't really sound like something I'd want. But yeah, so this was a 10-week study done by Professor Mark Halb, and a Twinkie was eaten every 3 hours. On top of that, this person had Oreos, sugary cereals, Doritos, and every day they supplemented with some vegetables, a multivitamin, and 1 protein shake. And they were still eating in a calorie deficit. So they were eating whatever they wanted essentially, but they were still in that calorie deficit. And over the 10 weeks, 27 pounds were lost. So
wow. What about after 21? What about after 21 years? Were they still in good health?
Yes. Well, I don't have the follow-up study for that. So I'm not suggesting that you do that. I'm not saying that's healthy at all, because obviously you have a situation where hyperpalatable foods, such as zero fat foods, they do tend to be, they have sort of a poorer macronutrient profile. They're more calorie dense. They have a lower satiety response, so they tend to make you feel more hungry. So I'm definitely not suggesting that you do that. But the most important thing, what I'm trying to say from that is that in order to lose fat, you need to have a calorie deficit. And as you said before, I completely reiterate that fat is healthy. Fat is good for you. You need fat in your diet just for the optimal function of human health. It's been shown time and time again, and I have got more studies later on for some of these questions I can share with you. But please don't cut out fat. Fat is not bad.
Exactly. It's interesting. I was having exactly the same conversation a few weeks ago with one of my previous clients from boxing, but she also buys from Yumzy now. And we were having this conversation, and she was saying her doctor told her basically to cut down on fat because she's having issues with things like she might be having issues with things like cholesterol and this and that. And I said to her, cholesterol is not bad. What the question is, what kind of cholesterol are we talking?
Yeah.
What are the sources of it, and what is it from? And she's not diabetic or anything, but her cholesterol wasn't even that high. It was 5 point something. And I said to her, that's actually very good for a person who's not diabetic. So I'm not sure I said to her, did they do the difference between the healthy cholesterol and the non-healthy one, HDL and LDL? And she said, no, they just said I have high cholesterol. And I said, that's really dangerous.
The triglycerides as well.
Yeah,
that's what you need to be looking at. It's so difficult, isn't it? Because I think as well, a lot of healthcare professionals, they're not trained in nutrition. They don't. I do question here when you hear stories like that. Yeah. I mean, you question whether they fully understand the benefits of certain things, because by telling someone to cut down on fats, no, it's just so bad. As an evidence-based practitioner, that to me is dangerous.
Very dangerous. She was literally asking me, okay, so I shouldn't cut down fat, and I said no. And she said, how does it affect my cholesterol? And I explained the whole cholesterol is not just from fat, it's from the type of fat. It's also from sugars, because you kind of, it's like rotting metal. If you expose the metal, it's not rotting just because of the water. It needs water and oxygen to rot. And I was explaining all of this. And then she was like, so I cut my proteins. And I said, don't touch your proteins. You need the proteins. I said to her, if you're going to cut down anything, which you're already doing, cut out the carbs. You're not an athlete. You're not trying to like do, she's not doing sports or anything. So I said to her, if anything, lower the carbs, which you're already doing for 2 months now. And then she was saying, but maybe I cut down a bit of the fat. And I said to her, cut down the wrong types of fat. What are you eating? And she was like, I'm eating this, I'm eating that. And it was all healthy fat. And I said to her, ask for the profiling to be done between the different types of, and it came back showing she had extremely high healthy cholesterol. And her problem was not.
That's what I have.
Exactly. And then her doctor.
It's not a bad problem to have.
Exactly.
It's really good.
And then her doctor was like, okay, fine. Then don't worry about taking statins. It's fine. You don't need them. And I was thinking, couldn't you do that? Couldn't you do that from the beginning instead of worrying her? I said to her, probably your cholesterol increased now from all the worry.
God,
but yeah,
so
it's
bad.
scary. It is scary. I actually had my review a few days ago for diabetes, and I was chuffed because the consultant was saying he wants to use my data to show my rebellious teenage years, because he's been seeing me for over a decade, to show how bad I was then and how that has gone nice and steady. And he was showing me that my sugar levels are almost like a normal non-diabetic, not normal, like a non-diabetic person. We're normal, but like a non-diabetic person.
Yeah. I always do that. And then I'm like, no, I'm still normal, but I just mean non-diabetic.
Exactly. And he was saying he will show that to his colleagues, because he agrees that actually sometimes the advice the nutritionists give is not right. Because at the beginning, when they saw me, my HbA1c was something like 14. And
wow.
Exactly, I was really rebellious before I went into the whole low carb world. And it was scary because the nutritionist gave me advice like, eat potatoes, eat rice, eat this, eat that. I was low carbing at the time, but I wasn't doing it right. And the next thing I know, I went back after 3 months and my HbA1c was 19. So her advice actually worked worse for me. And then that's when I saw this consultant, and that's why he takes care of me. And he said, okay, first of all, you're on the wrong type of insulin, because I was on Mixtard, which is like mixed insulin. So I couldn't even like rectify things if they went high.
Yeah.
I had to take the higher dose of insulin for the long acting and the slow acting mixed together. So he was like, you're on the wrong type of insulin. And then he said, like, speak to the nutritionist. And I said, no, I don't want to speak to her. Even with the wrong type of insulin, she gave me the wrong advice. So no.
Yeah, I have to say I've been quite rebellious. I see my consultant for my checkup. I think I'm now once every 2 years, because my HbA1c was so good. And they're like, oh, do you want to book in with a diabetic nurse? I'm like, no. But with the nutritionist, it's like, no, I'm a qualified nutritionist. I'm good,
exactly.
Thank you.
That's what he said to me. He said to me, well, you're a nutritionist, so you don't have to see her. I'm happy to sign you off from seeing her. So the funny part is, at the time, she was having this conversation with me, and she said to me, I said to her, how do you know about diabetes? She said to me, well, I only have a few degrees in it. And I said to her, good for you. I actually had it since I was 5. I only learned to eat with diabetes in mind.
And that's the difference.
Yeah, and the fact it was the wrong type of insulin really was not right for me. So the moment we resolved that, like, it's literally been a straight line throughout for the last few years. As you said, I only get seen once a year now. So I said to him, he said, can I show this data to my other doctors and consultants? And I said, go for it. I said, is she going to be there, the nutritionist? And he said, yeah. I said, please make sure she sees it.
Show it to her.
Exactly. Okay, moving on. So this is a question that just came in through Adrian. Is there a diet that you wouldn't recommend? And what is the worst diet? Ooh. We're going to get some people angry with this.
Yeah, we might do. I mean, I wouldn't ever recommend a specific diet to anyone. That's just me personally. I think whatever works for you, eating the foods you like. Is there an optimal diet for human health? No, there is no one definitive study that shows one thing is better than another.
It
And I
depends
wouldn't,
on body type as well and
I mean,
genetics.
yeah, definitely. So it's totally dependent on the person. But I find if you're trying to diet and if you're trying to lose weight, find what works for you. Find anything that you can stick to is going to be the best diet for you. So if it's something that you're going to struggle with, then it's going to be the worst diet for you. So there's no definitive right or wrong. It's all kind of based down to the individual. And that's with all the people that I work with, I always make sure that it's right for them. And with our
Exactly.
check-ins, if something's not working for them, we'll adjust it and we'll make sure that it's something that they can stick to so they don't feel like they're on a diet. They're just, implementing healthier choices into their lifestyle. And that's what's probably going to be the best diet. So I wouldn't say that there's a diet that I wouldn't recommend because everyone's different. I wouldn't say, in terms of the worst diet, probably just, smoking, drinking, eating takeaways all the time. That's probably the worst diet you can have because, you want to look after your body. You only have one body. So why
For
would
life.
you, yeah, why would you want to eat rubbish foods, not exercise, gain loads of weight, cause yourself further health problems? Why would you want to do that?
Exactly.
If you really don't care, then that's fine. That's your choice. But in my opinion, I want to be the healthiest, the strongest, the happiest version I can be, and I want to do that for as long as possible. So yeah, I think definitely
I
just dependent
agree.
on the individual.
I agree. The only thing I will say is for me and for people I work with, diets are the most likely way to fail at what you want to do. So, for example, the most recent example, we have a friend who, at the beginning of the first lockdown, she was worried how COVID was even worse for people who are obese and so on. And this friend, for many years, has been trying to lose weight. She even used to buy Yumsy stuff, but she wasn't doing it right. So she would, for example, for days refuse to eat anything, and then she would binge eat, and then for days she would be saying, oh, I'm doing this, I don't know, California diet something, and she'd be very strict about it, and then for days she binge eats again, and she was literally yo-yoing the whole time. And then at the
Yeah.
beginning of the first lockdown, like we had a conversation, and I said to her, look, if you want to do something, don't do it as a diet, do it as a lifestyle. And she was like, I can't do a diet as a lifestyle. And I said, look at me, I've been vegan keto for God knows, maybe 12 years now. So I said to her, you can. It's just a matter of, don't say I will deprive myself fully of everything. If I crave a bite of banana or two bites, I will do it. If I crave something, I will eat it. But at the same time, I'm not going to regret it. I'm not going to totally ban it. I'm not going to be against it. It's the same way. If you tell a smoker, quit, 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 they're not going to quit. But if you tell a smoker, if you want to have a healthier life, you should think about quitting smoking, and you leave the decision to them, they're more likely to succeed at quitting. They should be
Yeah,
the ones
empower
initiating.
them. They
Exactly.
they need to be the ones to make the choice, and that's the only
Exactly.
way that people will make a change.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
believe it or not, from first lockdown, she started the whole low carb thing, not extreme low carb, just like doing it. I have about 15 carbs a day or 20 carbs a day. She was having 50,
Wow.
50. And still, she did so well.
I'm probably having 250.
Yeah, but you work out, so you need that. You need it to be able to sustain your workouts and everything.
Yeah.
For me, I don't work out, so you can't imagine a couch potato eating okay, I'm not a couch potato, but you can't imagine eating 200 grams of carb. It's just, I
Yeah,
wouldn't even know how to
you
inject
wouldn't
for that.
even be hungry. You wouldn't want it.
Exactly. So, and I have a problem with gluten as well. Actually, Adrian has a problem with gluten, so we avoid gluten in general. So that kind of takes out
So it
most
works
tasty.
well.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
takes out most of the tasty breads, this, that, because all the gluten-free ones, other than ours, are really dry. It's like you're eating
Yeah.
cardboard.
I don't really like gluten-free stuff.
Exactly. Like you eat pasta that's gluten-free, and you're like, it's hurting my throat.
Yeah, that hurts to swallow, doesn't it?
It does. But you know
it is
what? She
cardboard.
she did what we were telling her, just 50 grams of carbohydrate and eating healthy and everything. She lost 23 kilograms in about 6 months. 23
Amazing.
kilograms from obese. She went to a normal BMI.
That's
How amazing.
incredible.
Exactly. And now she's the size she wants to be. She used to be a size 18, 20. Now she's size 10, 12. And she's still continuing this way. And even when people tell her, but you lost all the weight, why don't you just do what you want? She's like, actually, no, I feel like I feel more energized. I feel more healthy. I don't want to go back to how I used to eat. No. And like when she wants
Oh,
to
that's
lose,
amazing. Good for her.
and when she wants to lose a bit more weight, she just does what you mentioned earlier, the whole intermittent fasting thing. She does it for like, I don't know, even 12 hours and she eats. So yeah,
Yeah,
so if it's a
depends
lifestyle, it's
what
much
works
easier
for
than
you.
you are
Yeah.
saying. Yeah, extremities don't work, but yeah, I think everything else is achievable. What are your 3 tips? These are all questions we're just getting in now. So anyone watching this live, if you have any more questions, ping them to us here, or just ping them on Facebook or WhatsApp or Instagram, and they will be sent to us. So, what are your top 3 tips to stay healthy while dieting?
Oh, well, I think again, it depends on the kind of diet you are undertaking. In all honesty, kind of the non-negotiables, stay hydrated. So hydration is really important. Get enough sleep. That is so underrated, and so many people never, people are like, I need to lose weight, I need to have a diet. You actually, if you have disturbed sleep, it can cause your hunger hormones, so it can cause your ghrelin to increase, and it can cause your leptin, which is your fullness, your satiety hormone, to decrease. So sleep is really important. And I'd say just ensure you're getting the right vitamins and minerals. So if you're dieting and you're, perhaps cutting down a lot of calories, get a multivitamin. Just make sure you're getting, your body's getting what it needs. Because if you are cutting down on calories and you're perhaps struggling to get enough fruit and veg in your diet, I mean, to be honest, if you are dieting, you should be getting plenty of vegetables in the diet. But yeah, I think probably water, sleep, multivitamin would probably be my personal 3 tips off the top of my head.
Same here, and I can't emphasize. I mean, guys, sleep. Other than what Holly mentioned, just think of it this way: the time you're sleeping, you're not eating, so that's already a bonus. Think of it in that kind of way. We're both hydrating here, which is the first point you mentioned.
Yes, I'm still eating my breakfast. I made a smoothie.
Go
So
for it.
just
Oh, I'm about to make a green smoothie after the live, so that's amazing.
mm,
The other thing I would also add is fiber, because a lot of diets skip
yeah.
fiber, especially like keto diet. So people really need to up their fiber. Your body needs it. I mean, it doesn't do anything with it nutritionally speaking, but it does need it for functioning, cleaning the intestine, everything. So definitely
Yeah,
fiber as
that
well.
is a fantastic one. Yeah, in fact, I would almost put that above taking the multivitamin from my 3 things. I think I'll steal that, because obviously if you are dieting, you're going to be having kind of foods that fill out your plate. So for example, something that I love ratatouille. Literally the simplest thing, loads of vegetables in a like tomato sauce. You There's like no calories in that. It's low carb, low calorie, and I think it's so tasty. So if you are getting enough veg in, then you're going to be getting fiber in through that as well. But definitely everyone needs a minimum of 30 grams of fiber a day, and that's actually, if you look at what you're getting, majority of people are only getting around 5 to 10 grams, and
Really?
yeah.
Our yum bread has such high fiber content. I have a confession to make, and I'm still trying to figure it out, but maybe you know the answer already. If I have 2 breads in one go, which is very rare, like if I didn't eat the whole day, I will have 2 sandwiches because it's very fulfilling. It's a small baguette, but it is very high in fiber and it's very satisfying. So I can't eat more than one. But if I eat 2 together, I have to eat something with carbs afterwards, because actually the amount of fiber pushes me down into a hypo. That's how high fiber it is.
That's really interesting. Yeah, so that's another little tip for anyone who's got diabetes who's watching. Fiber, you don't need to inject for fiber.
No,
It's
you don't.
fantastic.
And for me, it works negative. I actually need to eat something carby afterwards
That's really
to make it
interesting.
go back
That's
to normal. It is. I'm still trying to figure out why. But I know it for sure. If I eat two
yeah,
pieces of yolk bread, I have to eat something with carbs afterwards, which doesn't work out very
really.
well because it's high fat, the bread, and then I put in the carbs, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna gain weight for this. High fat and protein, but yeah. Right. So another question. and then we'll go back to the main questions. In terms of fat loss, is there any diet or lifestyle you would recommend? I
So
know
I
you
think
were more
we've
generic about it
kind of,
earlier, but
yeah.
maybe you have more like something that you think. For me, for example, I said my example earlier of my friend doing keto, but doing it the right way with vegetables and fruits and everything. Not fruits, low carb fruits. But yeah, maybe you have something that you use with your clients that helps them achieve a target weight before they start exercising and so on for safety.
To be honest, no. As I said before, it really is what you can stick to. The best diet is one that you can adhere to, and that is dependent on the person. It's different for every single person.
Definitely.
I mean, it literally just comes down to a calorie deficit. So as long as you are eating less than you're putting in, that is what you will get weight loss from that. And with, if you're looking specifically at fat loss and not necessarily just weight loss, which is what obviously we want to do, making sure that we don't eat below our BMR, which is our basic metabolic rate. That's really important. And just doing simple things such as increasing your steps. You don't have to exercise. Just get your NEAT in, which is your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So just by walking, you're burning more calories. You're going to be losing weight. And that means you don't actually have to go and, do your exercise. You can just go for a walk and you'll be adding to that weight loss. So yeah, there's nothing particular that I would personally recommend, just something that you can stick to and something that makes sure you are in a calorie deficit.
I remember when I used to go to the gym 3 years ago. I haven't been in 3 years, I confess. But when I used to go, I could never get it out of my head. The gym was on the second floor of a building, and people would wait for the lift to go up. People would wait for the lift to go up to the gym on the second floor. It's not like the seventh floor or the eighth floor. It's literally ground floor where they are, first floor, second floor. Nobody would take the stairs other than me, and I would go up and everything, and people would still be queuing for the gym for the lift to go to the gym. I could never get that. It's all
People
about
are funny, aren't they? Yeah.
but I mean, that's what you're talking about, like small activities, like don't take the
Yeah.
lift, take the stairs.
Get
If you're
off the bus and stop earlier. Literally
exactly,
something like that.
if you're watching TV, okay, you can sit for it, but while you're sitting, you can just do something with some dumbbells or something, and just get in a little bit
Just
extra.
get more movement in. Move
Yeah,
more. Simple.
yeah.
Yeah.
Our body is mechanic. If you don't use something mechanical for long, it starts
It will
rusting.
seize up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Right. So back to the main questions until I see another pop up for the comments. Oh, we already answered this one.
Yeah. This one we've covered.
Carbs are fattening. I avoid them,
No.
but not for that reason. I was going to say I avoid
Yeah.
them, but not for that reason.
Yeah. No. Carbohydrates aren't fattening. In terms of carbohydrates, we don't actually, as humans, they aren't necessary. Like we literally can survive not eating carbohydrates, but one,
Even
it'd
if
be really,
someone is
really,
an
really.
athlete and so on.
Sorry.
Even if someone is very much an athlete and like constantly, I don't know,
So I
competing.
mean, as general, in general terms, people don't need carbohydrates to live. Obviously, if you
Protein and fat are
are an
good.
athlete,
Yeah.
yeah, if you're an athlete, then you're going to need more carbohydrates. If you, I mean, not having any carbs at all is just going to be really boring, and you probably will lack energy. So I wouldn't say cut out carbohydrates completely.
But to
But
be honest, everything has carbohydrates. I mean, we use almond flour that has carbohydrates in it, natural
yeah,
carbohydrates. We use coconut flour. Coconut flour, 100 gram of coconut flour can have anywhere between 7 grams of carbohydrate and 50 grams of carbohydrate, depending on the brand.
oh,
And it's
that's
100% coconut
it's
flour.
all
So it,
natural. Yeah.
exactly. So we have to be very careful which one we choose, because suddenly our products can stop being low carb if we just use the wrong brand.
Yeah. So I mean, in terms of carbs are fattening, no, it's not true. I mean, they're hyper palatable. They tend, foods that are high in carbohydrate, i.e., breads. You've got like your kind of bakery bits. They tend to be like hyper palatable. The calories and the macronutrients aren't as good as other options. And that's why people tend to like demonize carbohydrates. But having another little study for you guys, it's carbohydrates are not fattening. They are used as energy, obviously, depending on your lifestyle, will depend on how many you need. So athletes, endurance athletes will need so much more carbohydrates than just the general population. And I think looking at it from the fattening point of view, if you're thinking carbs are fattening, it's probably just because you're eating in a calorie surplus. You're eating more than you're burning, and that is more likely to come from your big loaf of bread or your packet of bagels if you're trying to lose weight. But just opting for the right kind of things, ensuring you're in a calorie deficit, is going to mean you can have your carbs, but just perhaps reduce them down a bit. But yeah, there's only four calories, so it's the same as protein. 4 calories in a gram of carbohydrates. So no, they're not the most fattening macronutrient. But yeah, it's not true.
For me, I agree with a lot of what you said, but I will just explain to the viewers like why some people believe carbs are fattening. So obviously, from what I said, you understand I don't believe they're fattening, but I do avoid them for other reasons. So first of all, let's see how carbs are processed in the body. So when you eat carbs, let's say, for example, now I ate a whole I don't know, potato sandwich, a chip buddy or whatever you call it.
A chip buddy.
Yeah, I don't know, whatever.
I like that potato sandwich. I think I'm gonna start calling it that now.
I never understood why people ate that. Like when I saw it the first time, I was thinking, really, why would you do that to your body?
I wouldn't want it. It's not something that's appealing to me.
To be honest, I refuse to even taste it. But I tried to be open-minded. I just couldn't get the idea of eating potatoes in a sandwich. Let's say I ate something very carby, okay? Now my body will take that. Even if let's say I'm not diabetic, so my body will deal with the insulin release and everything. Now here's the problem. If I am an athlete, or I'm Holly, or someone who actually uses that carbohydrate, my body will change it into energy and use it to actually to help me move, to help me do things, to help me do this, to do that. Now, the problem is if I'm a couch potato, or if I'm not as active as an athlete or so on, these carbs will be transferred into, the glucose will be transferred into fat. And that fat will be stored in the body, because it's not like, oh, we can't use the carbs, let's get them out of the body like the fiber, or let's get them out of the body like, I don't know, something else, like, I don't know, through the urine or so on. So the body will store this as fat. And yes, if you're not moving, if you're not doing the calorie deficit thing or carb deficit thing or whatever it is, you will end up using that as fat, and it will end up piling up. Now, another reason as well people think carbs are fattening is a lot of the time carbs come with things they shouldn't really come with. I mean, just look at bread. Bread shouldn't have more than 3 ingredients, unless it's Yumzy bread, then it will have 9 ingredients. But I assure you, they're all needed to give it the consistency. But it should have water, it should have flour, and I think yeast. I mean, maybe you want to throw in a bit of salt and sugar, but that's the bread my grandmother used to make. That's the bread Holly's grandmother probably used to make. That's the bread people made. If you look at bread now, it has God knows emulsifiers,
all these additives,
additives, it has things that look and are approved by the food agencies and so on, but to the body, these can be toxins. Gluten to a celiac is a toxin. So the body will try to protect itself by gathering the fat and keeping it close to protect all the organs in the body. And that's why some people will say, oh, I'm dieting, I'm cutting out all carbs, but I'm still not losing weight. Yeah, you're cutting the carbs, well done, but you're having aspartame, you're having saccharin, you're having toxins put in the body, and the body is not going to let go of the fat because it needs that fat to protect itself. So are carbs fattening? My answer would be, how are you using them? And how are you actually using them? Or are you just having them and keeping them? So that's why we always, like, when I work with people who are above a certain age, I straight away look at how many carbs they're eating throughout the day and what their activity level is, because I don't care about the calories. I never work with calories, and that's actually very different from how other PTs or boxing trainers or so on work. Because a lot of people ask, how many calories do you have per day? For me, you can have as many calories as you want, but make them nutritious calories, not calories that don't add vitamins, minerals, all of this. So if someone has a very active lifestyle, I'm not going to discuss the carbs as much as I will discuss them with someone who is not moving much, but they still want to lose weight and they still want to feel healthy and maybe get rid of inflammation, which is probably caused by extra things added with the carbs. So, yeah, are carbs fattening? Depends how you use them or exert them at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, I do agree with that. I definitely think it's very true in terms of how they're utilised and your activity levels. So yeah, I agree with that.
Awesome. Let's see the next questions. You shouldn't snack. I live on snacking.
I love snacking.
I can't have a full meal, even if it's a low carb meal and I have a full meal. I feel tired. I prefer to have smaller meals, like 5 meals a day.
Yeah. So again, depends on your lifestyle, depends what works for you. But yeah, snacking's not bad. Snacking's great. I like snacking. I will still have full meals and then snack in between my meals as well. But then obviously that's because I am quite active and I can do that. And also
And it
that's
depends
what
what
I
the
like to
snacks
do.
are. I'm guessing
Yeah.
your snacks are healthy. It's not.
Yeah, I'm not, I'm not eating like a cake and a whole packet of biscuits, but there was definitely a day that I did have a whole packet of mini eggs though, and my blood sugars paid the price for that one. But yeah, no, snacks aren't bad. If you're, as we were saying, if you're trying to lose weight, just make sure you're in a calorie deficit. Make sure that they're healthy snacks. Make sure they're benefiting you.
Definitely.
And yeah, enjoy your
Did you
snacks.
Did you know, actually, speaking of snacks and benefiting you, we even mentioned it in our newsletter yesterday. A lot of people are not getting the right amount of protein in their diets, modern
Yes,
diets. A lot of people, and I'm not talking
definitely.
diet like trying to lose weight, I'm talking just
General
normal eating.
eating, like
Yeah,
food intake.
it's
Yeah,
scary. Apparently, you
it's
need a minimum of
dangerous.
1 gram per kilogram of body weight, and a lot of people don't
Yeah,
do
at
that.
least. So at the
Yeah, at
moment,
least.
the NHS guidelines are, I believe, 0.8 grams per kilo as a minimum. However, that minimum is just purely to prevent like infection.
And
So
deficiency.
that's
Yeah,
like, yeah, that's to stop a deficiency. So that's not a healthy level. That's the absolute minimum. And people aren't even eating that in
yeah,
that amount of protein. Protein is needed for so many things. So yeah,
yeah,
I mean, I'd have to say high protein snacks are definitely the best. Like if I have a
definitely.
protein shake or one of the lovely Yumsy treats.
Yeah.
You
Actually,
know,
our Yumsy treats are really good with protein. Our donuts, we're not making them at the moment, but they come at like 3.5 grams of carb and about 9 to 12 grams of protein per donut.
so
So
you guys, if you're wanting a healthy high protein snack, Yumsy donuts.
definitely. But yeah, it's really worrying, especially if you think about the aging population, because they also need
Yeah,
to have
they
the
actually
right
need more protein because
muscles,
once you
wearing
hit a
off.
certain age, yeah, your body struggles to kind of do the things that it used to do. So, for example, like the repair of your muscles, the bones. So, yeah, definitely. It was always a bit of a joke that if your grandma's in hospital, don't take her a box of chocolates or of flowers. Take her a tub of protein. Like
I
that
love
would be
that.
more beneficial than giving her chocolates or flowers. It really is, and it's you know
I
it
never heard
it
that
sounds
before.
ridiculous.
I
No, it
love it.
sounds totally ridiculous, but it's true. We something I learned when I qualified in my nutrition.
I love it. I'm gonna think of that going forward. That's amazing. I mean, I never take chocolates to anyone. I remember even last Easter we had a bit of a family thing because it was lockdown, and my husband was saying, "Oh, let's send some stuff to the kids, like a small Easter egg for each kid in the family." And I was saying, "I'm not giving them poison." And he said, but their parents said they would like an Easter egg. And I said, I'm not giving them a poison at that age. And right and left. And then I said, why don't we just send them boiled eggs that are painted? And my husband was like, I don't think people will appreciate that as much as Easter eggs.
No, I don't
But
think kids would appreciate that.
so we ended up sourcing out Yomzi Easter eggs. And yeah, I was zen with that. I was okay with it. Certain foods help you burn fat. Oh, yeah. Interesting.
I mean,
Certain foods. Go on.
I'd love to know what these foods are. I really would. No.
What do you think about foods that are promoted as like they increase metabolism and so on, like chili and these things? They say, oh, it helps increase your metabolism. Are they even allowed to do such claims on the food packaging?
Yeah, so it's difficult. So there's certain foods help you burn fat. No, there are certain foods that perhaps have been studied and showed minimal benefits. And if it's over a certain percentage, then they can use those as a claim, even though I believe it's complete false advertising. I mean, lots of people say, like
Because
chilies,
people will
green
eat a lot
tea.
and then put chili on it and assume it's going to help them lose weight, even if they ate double the portion.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not true. Foods don't help you burn fat. your food's energy. You intake your energy, and the only way to get rid of it is to exercise it, or through your NEAT. So as I said before, like your daily activity, through exercise, or there's other different things such as the thermic effect of food, and that's just the way your body reacts to certain foods you ingest and that sort of thing. So sadly, no foods will help you burn fat. That is a myth.
Good to know. Your diet won't be effective if you don't exercise intensely.
No. Not true. I mean, you're an example. You don't have to exercise.
I lost more weight since I
lose.
stopped exercising. Not weight, size. I
Yeah.
lost more size since I started
Exactly. So
exercising.
it's not necessarily always about the weight. It's the body fat, the proportions that you're in. No, you don't have to exercise at all. And I'm assuming this means in terms of weight loss. Yeah, you don't need to exercise to essentially lose weight. You can just make sure your diet is the optimal diet. But I think in terms of helping you lose weight, you don't have to do intense exercise. You can just go for walks. So like we said, that NEAT. I mean, I love walking. Walking is probably at the moment my favorite form of exercise. I walk. I do about 10,000, 15,000 steps a day. Like I love it. And that is enough. I mean, in terms of the intense exercise, weightlifting is where you'll get that more kind of toned look, because you're then using the muscles, but you don't have to exercise intensely, but depends on your goals.
Exactly. And I mean, as you said, if you integrate it within your daily activity, it becomes part of your life as well. I mean, I miss working out. It's not that I stopped because I don't want to. I do miss it. But I do have some back issues and so on. So I am not allowed to exercise anytime soon. However, it's also dependent on the person. But I heard somewhere 80% is related to food and 20 to 30% is related to exercise. So definitely.
Yeah, it's like what everyone says. Abs are made in the kitchen.
Yeah, really? What they say?
Yeah, it's a very, very common saying. And I mean, it is true. It's all about what you eat, really. But yeah, the exercise will just kind of help get you there quicker.
I didn't want to say this on the live, but I will. I actually, no matter how hard I try to get like perfectly defined abs when I used to work out, and I used to go to the gym 3 times a day. That's something without even training anyone, just for me. And I didn't get the abs I got since I stopped exercising, but I started focusing more on what I eat. So what you just said, that totally applies in my case. Maybe not for everyone, but in my case, it definitely did.
Yeah.
Coconut oil is bad for you.
It's false. It's a lie. Coconut oil is not bad for you. I don't know. But I think this comes from the association of fat being bad for you. And I think people kind of, put it in that group of, oh, it's a fat, it must be bad for you. Coconut oil is about 87% saturated fat. Saturated fat's also found in things like, butter, meat, cheese. It's not bad for you at all. I mean, fat has so many benefits. The general population should be eating between 15 to 80% fat a day. You should have fat in your diet. And this is, for immune function. It can help you absorb vitamin and minerals properly. It's sex steroid hormone production. It's essential to have fats in your diet. And I mean, I don't eat meat. I don't really eat butter. I rarely eat cheese. I mean, so that's where I get my kind of fats from. Yeah. I like coconut oil. I like olive oil, and it's not bad for you. Obviously, if you are trying to lose weight, fats is going to be the highest in terms of calories. It's the highest macronutrient because there's 9 calories per gram as opposed to your protein and carbs, which is 4. But then actually you get so much more benefit from having fats than you would from carbohydrates. So, I mean, it depends on you, on your goals. But yeah, coconut oil is not bad for you.
Yeah, there's actually a very strange movement I'm looking at online. And there are a few researchers that are trying to back it up that coconut oil causes health problems like angina and things like that. And I started looking at it because a friend of mine and also one of our customers raised the fact that, some of the MZ treats have coconut oil and it's really bad for the health. And I explained, no, it's not. Actually, it's really good for the health because if we use vegetable oil or anything else and you expose it to heat, it's not good. Coconut and flaxseed oils are stable in heat. So actually they're okay.
Yeah. And so that's another thing. It's the rancidity point, as in like the smoke point, essentially. And yeah, coconut oil being a saturated fat is one of the better rancidity points.
And I was trying to explain if someone has angina or so on, the problem is not coconut oil. The problem is what have they been eating that's really bad for them, because even saturated fats, there are good types of saturated fat. I mean, yeah, exactly. I will happily take a spoon of MCT coconut oil anytime compared to taking a spoon of, I don't know, pork meat or pork fat. Some people eat it. Some people eat it.
I don't eat meat. And
I know. I don't eat meat either, but you should see in some countries, they actually eat pork fat like cheese, like butter.
Oh God.
So and even here, even yeah, but even in the UK, you have goose fat and things like that. So yeah. I think it's definitely healthier to get your saturated fats. And as we said earlier in this conversation, we do need it. We need it for our brain. We need it for our hormones. We need it to prevent long-term conditions. So yeah, it is essential. But the question is, how much are you taking? Because you don't want to end up eating pork fat and this fat and that fat. And then when you have a spoon of coconut oil, you're like, oh my God, no, I'm having a stroke or something. No, it's not from that. Also, how much sugar is in your diet and how much smoking is in your diet?
Demonize different foods. And for some reason, coconut oil does get demonized. I don't know why.
But it's quite worrying. There are many articles about this online, Holly, like many articles about it.
Yes. And it's really frustrating to see because there is no evidence. There's no data to back that up. There is nothing.
Even doctors are advising don't eat coconut oil, I know, which I find bizarre.
It's so frustrating because there's, if you actually look from an evidence-based perspective and you see, coconut oil is bad for you, but there's no evidence to back it up. However, we've got all this evidence for, showing that an excess of any other type of food is bad for you, but people still go, oh no, but it's coconut oil.
An excess of water is bad for you. I wouldn't be able to drink 4 liters of water a day.
I mean, I think we've got to the point now where I think I remember a few years ago, tomatoes were supposedly causing cancer and all of this
Yeah,
ridiculous
I
stuff.
remember that.
It's rubbish. It's a load of rubbish. There is no evidence to back it up. The media is just there. That's their job. They want to sell a story. And people, if you're uneducated, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, because before I did my nutrition course, I was in the gym at 5 a.m. trying to do fasted cardio, and I was, stopped eating carbs after 6 because I didn't know, but when you actually have the evidence, and when you start to look for the evidence behind things, it's you realize how much rubbish people feed you, how much advertising kind of tricks you into believing things, and until you're told otherwise, you're going to believe it.
Yeah. And doctors don't always know or understand the nutrition as much as people who actually work in nutrition. Unfortunately, as you and I found out, even nutritionists in hospital will not always know that. So
it's because they're under, I mean, for example, they promote the Eat Well plate, and as a nutritionist, I'm like, okay, well, I understand that the NHS promotes that because it's kind of what's considered healthy for most people. But actually, I really hate the Eat Well plate. I teach it to like kids in schools because it's helpful for kids to have an understanding of a healthy diet and a balanced diet. But in terms of it being the only way to eat, I don't think it's correct.
I never understood why when a diabetic goes to hospital and they're diagnosed with diabetes, their first meal is like 120 grams of carb, and that kid is sitting in a bed for a few days, and the one thing their body can't process is carbs, but we're giving it to it's like giving someone with peanut allergy peanuts or peanut oil and giving them an EpiPen and saying, get on with your life.
I mean, when I was diagnosed, I wasn't given any help at all. I was given a Carbs and Cows book, given my injection pen, and told, okay, that's how many carbs. Oh, and I was told, this is the worst one. I was told, before you exercise, eat loads of carbs.
They actually told you that?
They did. But this, I mean, I look back now, and the difference from when I was diagnosed to now, the kind of knowledge and the understanding of diabetes has come such a long way, because it was outrageous, the things I was told. So awful.
Some of these things are still told, Holly. Like on Facebook groups, I see diabetics being told, eat grapes, eat like a whole pack of grapes and you're going to be okay. Just inject for it. And I'm thinking, if they're at the beginning of their journey, you shouldn't be telling them things like that. Like, until they've monitored and know how to use their insulin, you shouldn't be throwing sugar at them.
Everyone's different, everyone's body is going to respond differently. The way my body responds to things is going to be totally different in the way your body does, and that's because we have got different lifestyles with different people, probably different weights, different heights, different ethnicities, and it's so individualized. There's the basic understanding of diabetes. We all know carbohydrates will spike your blood sugars, fats will slow down the rate of sugar coming into your blood. Proteins will spike your blood sugars, but later on,
and less than carbs would.
Yeah, exactly. And it's then listening to your body and understanding how your body works, rather than just going off the fact of like, okay, well, my doctor's told me that before I do exercise, I have to have these carbohydrates. You then go on your walk and you come back and you go, oh, my blood sugar's really high. I don't understand. Because you didn't need them. You just simply didn't need them. But
it's or if you're working out with weights, like, you're not gonna feel
that's the worst one.
that is because
that's just,
you're gonna have a release of glucose in your body, and you're gonna have the carbs that you ate.
It's catabolic. If you eat carbohydrates and then go and weight train, you might as well just not bother, because it's causing catabolism in your muscles in your body.
Definitely.
It's just, you're not going to be building muscle. If anything, you're going to be damaging it. And I think I've gone off on a bit of a rant here. I'm sorry.
No, it's good because a lot of people who watch our videos, I mean, we don't have as many people on the live, but a lot of people watch our videos later on, and we do get all the messages on Instagram saying how helpful it was. And it's good to go off topic because sometimes it affects people in different ways. So that's amazing. Thanks for that. Next question is, egg yolks are bad for you? I'm actually allergic to egg whites. So if I'm ever eating eggs, the yolk is the only part I can actually eat.
No, so I mean, little fun tip. You actually get vitamin D from egg yolk. Not a huge amount, but vitamin D is obviously good for your immune function, bone health, and actually proven to help for fat loss. So you also get vitamin K from your egg yolk, which helps with blood clotting, bone formation. So actually, there are health benefits for eating the egg yolk. I have got another study for you. This one's a really exciting one. I love this one. So this is a bit more specialized though. So this was looking at whether eating 7 eggs per week was bad for your cholesterol, because I think this is where the whole
A lot of people think it's bad
issue
for
comes from.
cholesterol.
Yeah. So essentially, if you have a high cholesterol and you eat lots of eggs, you can see whether or not you're a high responder, and this means this is people who can be affected by it. So again, this is individualized and depends on you. If, however, you do it and it does absolutely nothing for your cholesterol, you can continue eating your eggs. It's obviously going to be another lifestyle factor. So, how much exercise you're doing, how overweight you are, your stress levels, your alcohol intake, smoking, that sort of thing. But so one study, 2003 study, showed that eating 24 eggs per week, so that's over 3 eggs per day, actually reduced triglyceride levels in insulin sensitive and insulin resistant people.
Wow.
Another study, which was, that first study was 1994. I lied there. Second study, 2003, showed that eating 14 eggs per week for 6 weeks showed no significant changes in total cholesterol, and it actually improved good cholesterol levels.
That's amazing.
And then the last one, which is most recent, which is 2008, and it showed that eating 21 eggs per week for 12 weeks resulted in no significant changes in bad cholesterol and improved other blood lipid markers for health, including the good cholesterol and triglycerides. So,
how amazing.
Yeah. So that is a big fat myth.
Busted.
Yeah.
That's actually amazing, because a lot of people give bad publicity to eggs. I mean, I can't have them for allergy reasons. But,
I mean, if you've got that, then I wouldn't tell you to eat eggs. Absolutely not. But if you're avoiding them,
and it's a very good
if you're
source of
avoiding them
protein
based on that sort of thing, then yes, a good source of protein and good fats, good cholesterol.
Oh yeah, there you go, guys. Eat eggs. Obviously, get the free range ones where the chickens are not put in a little coop or something.
Oh yeah,
and if you're allergic like me, avoid eggs.
Yeah, I always go for the nice Clarence Court ones. I know they're
okay.
nice.
I wouldn't even know the brand. Sorry.
Yeah, if you can't eat eggs, avoid them. If that's a legitimate reason, like you have, but don't avoid them because of cholesterol rubbish that you've heard.
Yeah. And nighttime eating makes you fat. We had a similar question to this at the beginning about eating after 5. Yeah. So guys,
same sort of thing.
Yeah. Holly was saying earlier that it's you're giving your body energy, and depending on what your activity level is, rather than the time of the day you're eating it. So refer to the beginning of the interview. This was one of the first questions.
Yeah.
Right. And next is, salt is bad for you.
Oh, this is such a classic one, isn't it?
I mean, it's right, wrong. So
so it's a difficult one. It's a yes and a no in some ways, and then not in others. So essentially, it might increase blood pressure. It might do. But if you have got high blood pressure, again, it can be due to lifestyle factors, and so probably having excess salt in your diet is not a good idea for you. But in terms of maybe just reducing processed food rather than the salt itself, that's what the focus should be on. However, if you exercise a lot, your salt requirements will increase because you're sweating more. And I know that the NHS says, I believe it's 6 grams of salt a day for adults. But again, if you're an athlete, you're going to need more than the 6 grams. So individualized, depends on any kind of health circumstances. I'm sure, let me find, I have, because this was quite a good one, and this is very,
I think
very
it
common.
also depends on the type of salt, because the word salt is so broad. You can have potassium, you can have sodium, you can have so many different types of salt.
I'm kind of assuming that this is based off sodium salt.
Okay.
But that was just my assumption. But yeah, you are completely right. So yeah, eating a lot of salt might just increase blood pressure very, very, very acutely. But this is like a normal physiological process. It can happen. That's fine. I've got a nice study here. We'll start with our 1998 study. And that one showed that increasing salt intake from 4 grams a day to 15 grams a day for 16 days resulted in no significant differences in a 24-hour systolic or diastolic blood pressure. So that shows that there was no bad thing with salt. We have a literature review as well, written in 2006, and it showed that there was no strong, consistent link between sodium intakes and cardiovascular morbidity and mortality. So it's not necessarily that it's going to be a link there. And then my final one was a 2014 study that showed eating too little salt actually increased mortality risk.
Yeah.
So essentially, if you do have high blood pressure and you need to reduce your salt intake, reducing your processed food intake should kind of be your goal rather than just reducing your salt intake. So yeah, I think that's my kind of information from that one.
That's very good information, actually. And the last research is very interesting. I will look into that as well. We have a question from Espe McGuire. She was diagnosed 3 years ago with type 1 and following Dr. Bernstein's diet successfully. She walks approximately 7,000 steps per day, sometimes even more. But she wants to work more on joint flexibility. Maybe yoga?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yoga is fantastic in
Pilates
terms of helping you increase your flexibility. Yeah. I mean, I'm actually a qualified yoga instructor as well, so I do know a little bit about that. Yeah, definitely try doing yoga. Yoga is not just good kind of physically for your joints, for mobility and flexibility, but it's also a fantastic tool to helping your mental health. So I would always recommend yoga. I love it. And I mean, it did take me a little while to kind of get in it. You have to be the right frame of mind, because I know I was teaching one of my friends. I was teaching a class, and I had a few of my friends in the class, and during the meditation, she just got the giggles. She couldn't.
Oh, I fell asleep during meditation.
Did you? Oh, I just love meditation.
Coach had to nudge me to wake me up.
That's so funny.
She thought I had a stroke in that position and died or something. But then when she nudged me, I was like, oh. And she was like, oh, you fell asleep. So yeah, I went for Pilates because that's the only way I could stay awake. Not yoga. I went to 3 classes and I fell asleep in all 3 of them.
Maybe you just were really tired. But yeah, no, it's a fantastic way to kind of help you really relax.
Definitely. And the breathing. I think that's what made me sleep, all the breathing.
Yeah, I think that's something that is super important, especially, given the circumstances of what's going on in the world today. Everyone's very, very stressed. Everyone's kind of unsure about what's going on. And it sounds really silly, but literally just focusing on your breathing, even if it's just for 5 minutes. Sometimes if I'm a bit stressed with work, I'll literally just sit back, do some breathing exercises, and then I just feel so much calmer. But yeah, I definitely recommend doing some yoga.
In my case, I would feel so much calmer. I would actually fall asleep and not do it more. Brilliant. We have another question from Espe, and it's how do I not increase sugar intake? How do I not increase sugar intake for exercise? I'm finding making that step difficult.
So I assume that this kind of means
I think it's
exercise.
I think it's what we were talking about earlier, like taking carbs and then going for a walk, or taking carbs and doing heavy lifting, and then obviously that could.
So I mean, it depends on what kind of exercise you're doing. So if you are doing like, your high intensity exercise or your weightlifting, generally blood sugars will increase. If you're going on like a long walk, so you're doing like low intensity, steady state cardio, that sort of thing, you're more likely to notice a drop in your blood sugars. After exercising in general, your blood sugars can drop for 48, 72 hours post exercise. So it's just about understanding how your body's responding to things. So what I would recommend is, depending on the type of exercise you're doing, testing your blood sugars before, during and after, and then perhaps 1 to 2 hours after the exercise, just to see if you can spot any trends. And each time you are doing that exercise or some form of exercise, just take note of your blood sugars, use a blood sugar diary, or just note it down, and you can spot any trends and notice how your blood sugar responds to those sort of things. But in general, kind of higher intensity stuff will increase your blood sugars, and lower intensity stuff tends to decrease it. So hopefully that helps.
Amazing. Espe, I hope we answered the questions. If you have any more, please keep them coming. We'll go back to our original questions. And the next one is, bread is bad for you.
So I think this kind of goes into the similar carbohydrate is bad for you debate that we had earlier.
I think my grandmother's bread is okay. I mean, it's just carbohydrates, but the bread that they add extra gluten to make it cheaper, all the extras, all the additives, all of this, I don't think what we eat from the supermarket is bread anymore. It's stuff with a bit of bread.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't panic and say, you can't eat bread because it's going to kill you, because it's not. But I do think, if you can make your own bread, at least you know what's going in it.
Exactly.
I love making bread and putting a load of like seeds in it there, so it's got all the extra added kind of healthy fats and nutrients. But yeah, bread isn't bad for you. But as you said before, if you're a sedentary person, you literally just sit down all day, you're not moving at all, not doing any exercise, it is probably going to cause you to gain weight because you're not utilizing those carbohydrates. But it doesn't mean it's bad for you. It's just because you're going to be less active. So you just need to adjust your food intake to match your lifestyle.
Cool. I'm going to whiz through because we don't have a lot of time. And we seem to be getting a lot of live questions, which is amazing because it's relevant to what we're talking about. So keep them coming, guys. Dietary supplements are necessary.
Only if they're correcting a deficiency is what I would say. So if, for example, you are deficient in certain areas, and this can be done via a blood test at your GP, then it will be necessary to take your supplements. I'm trying to find, I'm sure I wrote down, yes, there it is. So there's over 50% of the UK population is deficient in vitamin D. So if you were to take a supplement, I would highly advise you to take a vitamin D supplement, because you will struggle to get that from your diet. You can get some, but not enough that we would need. But otherwise you should be able to get most other vitamins and minerals through your diet. As I've said before, if you are on a diet or if you're in a calorie deficit, reducing your food intake, it might be useful to take a multivitamin if you are lacking in those vitamins and minerals in your diet. But again, you've got fish oils, which could also be beneficial if you're not getting, if you're vegan, for example, and you're not taking a vegan fish oil supplement. I know they do like algae versions and things like that, so it is vegan. But fish oils, can help with cardiovascular benefits. They can help to reduce inflammation. They can help increase your strength and size. There is some evidence to show that it can help with fat loss as well. I think if you were to take supplements, I would personally say vitamin D, but that can be tested at your doctor's if you actually have a deficiency. But it is probably likely because if you live in the UK. Fish oils do have lots of extra benefits. So, I put my mum and my dad on fish oil supplements. I told them to take it. I was like, we're getting old now, guys. Take some fish oil supplements. It's going to help. But again, depending on your goals, if you're an athlete, you have got things such as creatine, beta-alanine, and those are sort of things, and caffeine, those are sort of things you can take to help boost performance. But if you're just general population, probably just a vitamin D and probably a fish oil supplement. So not necessary, but they will help.
Yeah, so I supplement vitamin D because I am deficient in it. But one thing I will say is if you're going to take dietary supplements, always make sure you understand how and what they work with. And that's where you need an amazing nutritionist like Holly to talk to, or someone who actually understands how they work. Because a lot of people take vitamin D and their body still doesn't utilize it because they don't realize they need vitamin K and magnesium for the vitamin D to work. Same way a lot of people take calcium supplements. Yeah. Same way a lot of people take calcium supplements, but they don't work because they don't have enough vitamin D for them to work. Same way a lot of people have a problem with iron, although they take a lot of iron supplements, but they don't realize they have high zinc. Yeah, or they have high zinc in their diet, so it slows down the absorption of iron. So it's always good to know what you're taking, what it might do, and what it works with otherwise. That's why Holly also mentioned like a multivitamin, so everything is nicely balanced.
It's covered, yeah.
Yeah, but it's always. I mean, for me, I know the only thing I'm deficient in is the vitamin D. So I take vitamin D, but at the same time, the same supplement has vitamin D, vitamin K, the magnesium, and basically that's exactly what I need for that level to be achieved. And my vitamin D deficiency has disappeared. So although for 3 years I was taking vitamin D supplement on its own and nothing was changing. So it does make a huge difference how you're taking it, and it's worth discussing with someone who understands the nutritional aspect and what's needed for what. So next question. All frozen foods lose their nutritional value?
Nope. You have the same nutritional value in your, so on a fruit and veg perspective, you've got, when you freeze your fruits and vegetables, they contain the same nutritional value as when they're fresh. They just last longer. So it's actually my preference. I always get frozen fruit and veg. I love it also to go in my smoothies. And the same goes for like tinned fruit and veg. They've still got the same nutritional value as if they were fresh. So that's not true. In terms of other frozen items, what I would say is just be careful. There's a lot of preservatives in there. If you're looking to have a healthy, balanced diet, I would definitely recommend like fresh foods would be more beneficial just from like a health perspective. I mean, in my mind, all I'm thinking of frozen food is like chicken dippers and pizzas and that sort of thing. I don't know. I don't really tend to eat frozen foods, but I do eat. So obviously, I don't eat meat. Personal preference, no other reason. Literally, just I don't like it.
I never liked meat as a kid either, so don't worry.
Yeah. So I do eat like meat substitutes. So a lot of that does tend to be frozen. Like I do a lot of like Linda McCartney's things. I don't know if you guys have seen them in the supermarkets.
Yeah.
And they still have, good nutritional value. But the only thing I would say is that they do have those added things in. But as with any kind of processed food, that's what you're going to get. So unless you're literally eating like, a whole plant-based diet, you will have some additional things added in. But definitely in terms of fruit and veg, they're still exactly the same as if they were fresh. But yeah, just be mindful when picking out your frozen foods. I mean, it's even worth turning them over. Have a look on the ingredients list. If something like if you can't pronounce the name of what is in that food, I'd stay away from it. That's kind of my go-to.
Yeah, we have that rule. We also have a rule of not more than 10 ingredients. So yeah. Amazing. We got a question. What about black seed oil? So I think black seed has different names like kolanji. Yeah, like kolanji, or for people who know it as black onion seeds. No, onion seeds only. Yeah, it looks like sesame. Sorry?
Is it like cumin seeds or?
Yeah. They're black in color. They look like sesame, but they're black in color.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they're also known as black cumin seeds. Yeah.
Okay. So I haven't read any research supporting this. So from my own kind of evidence-based perspective, I wouldn't be able to answer this definitively right now. In terms of the fact that they are a seed and it's an oil, so obviously it's going to be a fat. It's going to be a healthy fat if it's a seed. So, you know, I wouldn't suggest that it's not something healthy and what doesn't have any benefits, because, you know, it will contain fats. You'll probably get, assuming, some form of like omegas in there, but I don't actually have any evidence for that, so I wouldn't want to say yes or no. I haven't seen if it has been able to have any effect, but I will have a look, and I'll let the Yumsy guys know my thoughts on that. I'll make a note of it.
Amazing. I mean, in cultures where I grew up, it's actually considered very good for a lot of health things. Now, some of them are scientifically researched, some of them are not. But things, including things like gut health, heart health, constipation, things like helps with type 2 diabetes. It's also a huge part of the diet, which I guess makes it even more appealing for people, that it has these extra health benefits. But yeah, I haven't researched which of these are actually scientifically proven or just culturally pushed by people.
Accepted, yeah.
Exactly. But I do know if someone has a cough, they tell them to have either sesame oil or black seed oil. So whether because it softens the throat or it has an actual effect, I don't know.
I mean, I love adding sesame seeds onto like my food bowls, my like health bowls, I call them. I like them just because it gives them a bit of extra crunch, and I know that they are seeds and they do have health benefits. So I can't imagine that it's not good for you. But as to, you know, whether you should supplement with them, whether it's necessary, that I don't actually know the answer to. But I mean, it sounds like it's probably a good thing to have.
Amazing. Eva, if you send us the question on Instagram, then when Holly comes back to us, we'll send you the reply, or Facebook, or whichever channel, or even the YouTube video, because that's the platform you messaged on. So we'll send you the response there. And if the label says natural, it must be good for you. Oh, God. The amount of labels that say that and they have something else written in the ingredients, it's just baffling.
Yeah, so in terms of the word natural, I would just be a bit wary of it. If you're kind of, I mean, more often I see things that say organic rather than natural. If it is a natural, offered as a natural thing, yeah, have a look in the ingredients. You will know whether or not it's natural. In my own opinion, something natural is something that is, you know, fresh out of the ground. It's mainly like plants. It's, you know, plants, seeds, beans, that sort of thing. That to me is what a natural food is. You know, it's not processed. It's just from the ground. It's from the earth.
Yes.
In terms of like, maybe is organic better, because I know that they're kind of interchangeable terms. So this is kind of the route I've gone down with my evidence-based research that I'm sharing with you guys. There is actually no evidence that suggests that eating organic rather than foods that aren't labeled organic is more beneficial. So there was no significant evidence in like biomarkers or nutrient levels. There was, I can't remember what study it was from, but there was in fruits and vegetables, there was 30% less pesticides found on the organic foods than there was in the non-organic foods. However, these were both below the kind of safe level, so they were fine. They were in the safe level, both of them, even though there was 30% less in the organic ones. So they're both within kind of the safety limit. So there's no kind of real difference there, because especially if you're going to take home your fruit and veg and wash it anyway, you know,
unless you're messing with things like GMO and so on, then yeah, that's
then
another can of worms.
That's a whole nother that's a whole nother topic. And I know in some meats, so for those that eat meats, I think it was chicken and pork, there's like 1/3 less kind of likely to contain antibiotic resistant kind of bacteria, I guess, in them. But then again, you know, if you have your conventionally raised, both of them have equal level of giving you food poisoning. So,
oh wow.
I mean, it's something so simple like that. So there's no kind of real benefit to it.
I'll go with the
Unless we go
30 to
down.
40% less pesticides and things
Yeah,
and
I mean,
hormones and all that.
I'd probably opt for that one. Myself, I do tend to go for organic stuff.
Yeah,
I just make sure I wash everything before I eat it.
of course.
But
Especially with COVID nowadays, you have to.
yeah, definitely, just like anti-bac everything.
I remember the first time my husband saw me wash fruits and vegetables using soap, and he thought I was crazy. And then COVID hit, and I was like, "Oh, who's crazy
Yeah,
now?"
now who's crazy? Everyone's doing it now.
But because I grew up in countries that had like typhoid, cholera, all of this, so if you didn't
You're
wash it
just
with
used to
soap,
doing
you
that.
were gonna die. So yeah, amazing. We'll go to the next question. To lose fat, do cardio on an empty stomach.
Lies. It's all lies. From the studies, there's no plausible evidence that shows that it kind of offers any fat loss benefit. So this is definitely kind of like a pseudoscience thing that's come from like bros in the gym, getting up really early and doing their 5 a.m. incline treadmill walks. There's no evidence. There is a slight increase in fat oxidation during that exercise, but that's not necessarily translated across a 24-hour period. So there is no real benefit. And there was a randomized control trial in 2014 that showed it was a complete lie. There was no benefits. It's literally just down to personal preference. If you like to get up and do your cardio on an empty stomach in the morning, go for it. If you don't force yourself to do it. There's no evidence to suggest that. And in terms of fat loss, energy balance is what it comes down to. Calories in versus calories out. That's all it is. Simple as.
Going back to the beginning.
Yeah, literally.
Negative calorie foods are the key to weight loss. I can't imagine myself on a celery diet, like just eating celery the whole time. But maybe there are more foods that are negative calorie.
Celery juice is the biggest scam ever.
Really?
It's not true. Yes.
Not the juice. I thought eating it is like it gives you less
Yeah,
calories or something.
I remember hearing this years ago about you eat celery. Oh gosh, sorry.
I mean, I love celery. Don't get me wrong. It's just I can't imagine myself eating only celery unless there are other negative.
I'd love to know what these negative calorie foods supposedly are. But no, as I said before, it's literally a calorie deficit is what is key for weight loss. The end.
So, do we know any other negative calorie foods?
No, celery was the only one that I honestly, I couldn't tell you what a negative calorie food was. I think ice might be a negative calorie food, maybe, because you probably burn more energy eating ice than you would, you don't get anything from it because it's just water. But I guess you're burning calories, aren't you, if you're trying to chew your ice?
Yeah. You should detox regularly. I think the word detox can be very broad because, for example, I try to keep a low carb and alkaline diet. Well, not fully alkaline, just like 70% alkaline. But the word detox here is a bit confusing because for someone else, detox might mean a smoothie that's full of oranges and pineapple and everything that has sugar that wouldn't be considered alkaline, but also wouldn't be considered low carb. But for them, maybe that is detox. Detox might also mean for someone, I don't know, intermittent fasting for a day to reset their body. So for me, I don't know the answer to the question. I think detox is great, but I wouldn't know what the definition of detox is in this context.
Yeah, I think it's quite a broad question, as you said. I think
mental
as I
detox.
always say, it's dependent on the individual and what you want to get from this detox. If even having like a calorie break, like a kind of cheat meal diet break, like we spoke about earlier, that might be considered a detox. I just think it's kind of too broad to give an answer to because I'm not entirely sure what the question is after. I think if someone came to me and said, should I do a detox? My first question would be, what for? What is it that you want to get out of the detox? If, for example, you're trying, if you're in a muscle gain phase, so I work with a lot of athletes, and if you're in a muscle gain phase and you are really struggling because you're trying to eat loads and loads and loads of calories, and you're so bloated and you're really struggling with it, then yeah, we will drop your calories for a couple of days if that's going to make you feel better. And that could be considered a detox for someone. If, for example, if you came to there and said, shall I do a juice cleanse for a week? I definitely wouldn't recommend that. I mean, if anything, it's probably going to, flush out your good bacteria in your gut and cause all sorts of problems, UTIs and awful.
Yeah.
So yeah, it depends on what the detox is and what your kind of aim is for, what you want to get out of that detox.
And if it complements your body long term as well, not just for now.
Completely.
Yeah. I think everybody needs a detox from London these days.
I need a detox from this country. I need a detox from COVID. I need a holiday. But I think everyone's in the same boat there. Everyone needs a holiday detox, don't they?
Same here. Awesome. And eating 5 meals a day is good for everyone. It's close to the question we had earlier, but I think this one promotes. The earlier was snacks. This one is asking if eating 5 meals a day is good for everyone.
I mean, I wouldn't suggest it's good for everyone. Again, it depends on like everything with nutritional myths. It really does kind of come down to the individual and what works for you. So for me, if I was told I had to eat 5 whole meals a day, I could do that if they were like really small meals. But if I was a rugby player, 5 large meals a day might be good for me. If you're trying to lose weight, 5 meals a day is probably not going to be right for you because it'll probably cause you to eat more than you're burning, and therefore you wouldn't be able to lose weight. I mean, I wouldn't say it's good for everyone, but if it works for you, then great. If it doesn't work for you, it doesn't have to work for you.
And people have different people have different metabolic needs as well, depending on their age, their activity levels, their jobs.
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, 5 meals a day might be great for me. It might be great for my grandma, but it might not be great for if I had a sister, for example, because she has a totally different lifestyle. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So just totally dependent on the individual.
Yeah. And last question, guys, unless we get any from the live. Red meat is bad for you. I'm wondering if this is a political question or or the person knew that you and I don't eat red meat.
So yeah, I'll just kind of preface this. I don't eat meat, but that's down to personal choice. I tried vegan. I mean, if we're going to put a label on how I eat, I probably would say I'm pescatarian, but then sometimes, like, I don't drink milk. I won't go near milk, but I'll eat yogurt. Here. So I'm just, my boyfriend just says I'm a fussy eater.
Yeah, same here because I don't eat milk. I don't eat yogurt, but I'm not vegan per se.
Yeah.
I don't eat meat, but again, it's just a matter of, I mean, for me, it's choice and a bit of also understanding of how the industry works. But for me, for example, like if the question is asked, is red meat bad for you? I don't eat red meat. I just can't stand the taste or the smell. But for example, one time there was this very funny scenario. I was in Mexico and I was chatting to this Canadian nurse and she was asking me, why do you not eat meat? And I said, since I was a kid, it was a problem for me. I never liked meat. Everybody tried to force me to eat it. And I never get pleasure out of eating meat. I get pleasure eating a banana. Don't get pleasure out of eating a meal or something like that, a piece of meat or something. And she was asking me this. And she said, that's interesting. And I said, why? And she said, she worked as a nurse for people who have cancer. And I said, oh, okay. And she said to me, we never got any person who's not a meat eater come to us with cancer, like of the stomach, of the gut. And when she said that, I was looking at her and I said, not meaning to interrupt the fact you're eating a hamburger, but how does that work for you? And she was saying, no, I just admire people who can control themselves. And I was thinking, maybe I'm just lucky that I don't feel attracted to eat meat, because for some people, probably they would love to eat it, but for whatever reason, gout or other health issues or I don't know, or heart issues or so on, or hormonal issues, because a lot of the meat we eat, unfortunately, is injected with hormones. So I say we eat as if we eat meat, but yeah.
No, but that's
um,
another one of the reasons why I cut it out. I mean,
yeah.
I used to love meat. I
Oh,
used to
you
have
do? I never loved. So how do you love meat?
I
That's what
used
I
to
don't
love it.
understand.
I used to have, like, my steak was blue. I used to love steak tartare, and now the thought of that honestly turns my stomach. I wouldn't go near it. But
Oh,
in
wow.
terms of, like, nutritionally, is red meat bad for you?
Mm,
It actually contains vitamin B12. And if you're looking at the nutritional benefits of B12, that helps with fatigue. It helps if you feel faint, it can help kind of stop that. It can help with those who are breathless, those who have headaches. Removing red meat from your diet might be unnecessary to do. It is a good source of protein. So if you do have it, it's not the end of the world.
diverse proteins as well.
Yeah,
Because
so
that's
it's
one thing I'm conscious about, the type of protein and the amino acids and so on. And meat is one of the easiest sources of like
yeah,
different diverse
definitely.
types. But yeah, I don't like it, so I just have to go the harder way about getting my proteins.
No, I'm the same. I mean, I know that there was a systematic review which was done in 2010, which looked at processed meat versus red meat. The processed meat had a higher risk of coronary heart disease and diabetes compared
Yeah,
to the red meat. So if you're looking at it from that perspective, then obviously red meat's good because you're comparing it to the
yeah.
processed meats. In it's not necessarily bad for you, but I guess it kind of depends on the way you eat it, because like you said, there are plenty of instances where those who do end up having bowel cancer are, big red meat eaters.
Yeah.
But there is no kind of definitive study that shows eat red meat, you'll get cancer, you'll die. There's
But I
no
think, yeah, I think
study.
it also depends on the body, because I know people who have smoked their whole life and they died of old age. I know people who smoked for half their life and they died from lung cancer. So some of us
Yeah,
are
it's
more likely to
totally
get things than others.
totally depend. I think I've said this so many times. Everyone must be so sick of me saying this, but it is dependent on the individual. I mean, I wouldn't, if you eat red meat and you enjoy it and it's helping you hit your protein, it's giving you that extra B12, I wouldn't tell you to cut it out. If you
Mm,
don't like red meat, like you and I wouldn't force you to eat red meat. So I think personal preference. If you enjoy it, enjoy it. But you don't. There's no need to eat it excessively. But if you're eating, processed red meats every single day, I would probably tell you to, revisit your diet and perhaps look at some more natural forms of red meat. Like you've got like your minces and your fresh cuts of meat. I don't know what they are because I don't eat them, but I would opt for the more kind of natural style of that meat rather than the heavily processed stuff if you are
yeah,
going to eat it. That
yeah,
would probably be my advice.
definitely. Same here. But yeah, I wouldn't know which brands or what to advise
No.
on. Because yeah, I just I meat and not broccoli, the white one, meat and cauliflower. I love broccoli, but cauliflower, I just don't understand how people can eat that stuff, or meat.
Really?
It's just, it baffles me. Since I was a
Cauliflower, I
kid,
love
even,
cauliflower with loads of
really,
sweet chili sauce. I
just
don't
seeing it in the
vegetables with sweet chili
supermarket,
sauce.
I cringe.
Really? No, I've definitely become more of a fan of it. But yeah, I definitely choose broccoli over cauliflower.
Oh, I would
I
choose
just
anything
prefer it.
over cauliflower. To be honest, if I'm faced with meat or cauliflower, I might die starving. But yeah, anything else works. But wow, well, we didn't get any other questions. Holly, that was so useful for the people watching, for me as well. I gained so much knowledge from this.
Oh,
And
thank you so much for having me. It was my
thank
pleasure.
you for being with us. And we look forward to having another live with you.
Yes, definitely. It'd be lots of fun. And I will go away and do some research for that question about the black seed oil.
That
And
would
then
be
hopefully we'll be able
amazing.
to help a few more people there.
Amazing. Thanks, everyone. And see you in our next live or next video.
Thank
Like,
you for watching.
share, subscribe. And if you find any parts useful, just send it to your friends and tell them which minute to watch.